news stories that I thought were interesting. So, this one in particular, pretty interesting. So China, America has sanctioned a firm, which means we made some legal protest against them, which I think has no effect, maybe unless they come to America. But they've, Sichuan Silence is the name of the company. They're a military government contractor in China, and they were spreading ransomware. They provide services to China's intelligence services, computer network exploitation, brute force password cracking, email monitoring, and public sentiment suppression, which is an interesting service. And this is, I think, what I hear most about China doing is having, like Russia, tons of bot accounts to amplify messages to try to make people think pro-China things. Propaganda, essentially. But they found a 0-day in a Sophos firewall, and they used it to to exploit 81,000 firewalls, many of them in America, and then they were going to compromise the firewalls to steal usernames and passwords, but they also infected them with ransomware, which apparently is what made the US government mad about them. 23,000 of them in the United States. One was an energy company, and so they've unsealed an indictment on them. We've been doing this for the last several years, having indictments on hackers in China and Russia, which seem like they're purely symbolic. I mean, I don't think they care, but it does mean that people can't do business with them, I think. That's all. As a result, U.S. organizations and citizens are prohibited engaging in transactions with these people. So they can't have any American business, if in fact they had any. But anyway, it's interesting that they did that. And one wonders if the Chinese government actually wanted them deploying ransomware. I would think not. That would just seem like a way to get caught. So it sounds like they're not in control of their own hackers. They sort of go rogue and do unauthorized things. So AMD has a trusted execution environment. These keep happening in order to prevent, the idea is, even if people have physical access to the hardware, they won't be able to steal the encryption key because it's stored in a special trusted execution environment. This is sort of like a trusted platform module and such. And that's the idea. So they're adding protection in the silicon, and this stuff is called some kind of protected environment, but they found a proof of concept attack that completely undermines these assurances. So what it does, which is pretty amazing, is you can attach a piece of hardware to the chip, and this sends a false signal during boot up telling the operating system that the chip has a very low capacity, so I guess it decides it can't access the supposedly secure area, and it ends up putting it somewhere insecure. The exact details I didn't get, but this is the hardware signal. They say sometimes all they have to do is make a software change on the box, but they can, typically it takes a hardware change, but they're able to fool it by sending a signal down these pins to not access the secure memory. So that's pretty interesting, and it shows that they didn't think this all through, making these supposedly secure modules. It reminds me of what I see on Paul's Security podcast all the time, that Secure Boot has a bunch of similar flaws, where there's ways to sneak bad things into Secure Boot. Amazon is going to start selling cars. They're partnering with Hyundai dealers, so you can shop online for your car and pick it up at a Hyundai dealership. And the main consequence, of course, is that you don't have the dealer trying to trick you and steal your money the way they always do. You just choose your items online. There's nobody to add more to the price or lie to you about your trade-in value or anything, so that would be nice. I think there's already something called Carvana and other online car shopping places. It seemed like they offered the same thing. Not that I would know. I haven't bought a car in a long time. But I think a lot of people try to avoid the garbage at the dealer, where the same people that used to be horse traders try to rip you off about the car prices too. Nobody actually wants that.
The back-end cost, all the options.
Yeah, and the price is different for every customer. They size you up and add stuff that, apparently doing it online would seem like the way to avoid that. Although Amazon does the same thing. They get different prices if you log into different accounts or from different areas. So they're also altering the price. So there's a WordPress bug in this WordPress forms which allows you to get Stripe refunds. And I didn't quite understand how it's related to Stripe, but you have to be authenticated to exploit it, but apparently you can often join for free on sites, so exploitation may be easy. And so this is an easy drag and drop WordPress form builder. And what I could not understand from this article is how it's connected to Stripe. Any authenticated user can invoke sensitive AJAX functions like a single payment refund, which executes Stripe refunds. So I guess if your site uses Stripe to process money, that makes it vulnerable. Anyway, this keeps happening. WordPress extensions keep having flaws. You really have to have automatic updates and stuff on your WordPress extensions.
Stripe is a payment service?
Yeah. Stripe is a payment service like Square. And I guess people use it on WordPress blogs. I haven't never used it. So there's a new disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is spreading. People don't know what it is. It has a high fatality rate, something like 7% fatality rate, whereas COVID was 1%. And they say there have been 406 cases reported. 31 people have died, so that's 7% mortality, which is very serious. They don't know what it is. It's spreading. And they say, in addition to, of course, being bad for people that might catch it, it's endangering the supply of cobalt. The economy relies heavily on mineral mining. It's the world's largest producer of cobalt, which is a critical component of rechargeable batteries. I saw last week that the Tesla Cybertruck plant closed for 3 days, and I thought that was because there was not demand for Cybertruck, but they say no, there's plenty of demand for the Cybertruck. It's because they can't find the batteries to build any more Cybertrucks. There's a shortage of batteries, and this is not going to help. So I heard Salesforce on a blog, on a podcast, and he said this is the AI that's actually valuable, whereas he said Microsoft Copilot is pretty much disappointing and most people find it's not doing much good, which would suit the fact that Microsoft had to lower the price recently and bundle it with Office. Apparently people are not happy paying for it, but he says his products are in fact making people get a lot of money now because what they do is they give you an agent that will do things. This will auto-generate sales pitches, customer service AI. This one a lot of people know I'm consulting for want this. They want it like this, the little bot that pops up supposedly to help your customers, and a marketing AI, which will find your most engaged customers and decide what to send and when to send them. Commerce AI to resolve complex issues and increase customer satisfaction. You know, if the AI actually worked, it would be nice. And he says these agents actually work. This is the future of AI, not some chatbot where you have to ask a question, but some kind of agent that actually does a job you can understand, and well enough that humans don't have to take over from it all the time. So, that's interesting.
Do you know anything about instead the new version of ChatGPT, the $200 a month?
Yeah, they just say it's 4.0. They say it has reasoning capabilities, whatever that means, which I think just means it has an algorithm to break problems into little steps, which the Amazon one has had that all along, Claude. And I don't know what they think makes it worth $200. That's hard to believe. Yeah, I'll be interested to hear the reports of people that pay $200. Is it actually returning some value that is worth all that? And so this, there was a person in one of my class today, I had a workshop for teachers, and one of them said, I go to these workshops and I learn about the exciting field of quantum computing. And I was pouring cold water on it, saying, quantum computing is an interesting technology, but it is nowhere near being of any value yet. And here's a fine example. They made a chip that has 104 qubits, but they're really low quality. They have a lot of noise and they degrade. But if you implement error correction and use all 105 qubits to make one synthetic qubit, then it will actually remember data for 1 hour. So that is how far we are from anything that's remotely of any value. And like to do something awesome, like to crack an RSA 1024-bit key, you would need thousands of qubits that are noise-free. So, like you say, quantum computing might be great in 10 or 20 years, assuming the usual pace of development. But it needs to get something like 100 or 1,000 times better than it is now before it can actually do anything important. So, it's probably coming, but there's nothing to worry about anytime soon. And so this was interesting. So the national surveillance system in China spies on the people everywhere from the government. Now in America, the government is limited how it can spy on you, but the corporations are not limited, so they spy on you. So Google and Amazon and everybody know everything you're doing, but the government doesn't. But in China, the government knows everything, and the Chinese insiders are siphoning off the data and selling it online. So they're, like we mentioned before, they don't seem to be in control of their own government people. They just do illegal things with the money, with the data they get. And it's no secret that he uses technology to maintain their massive surveillance apparatus. And that is great value. So the government workers can basically steal it and sell it on the black market. There's a whole lot of government corruption in China. We get a lot of reports about it. Of course, we're just moving into the golden age of corruption here, essentially the same as Berlusconi. I mean, Trump's already selling cabinet positions for money, and it's just going to be government for sale. But in days of wooden ships, the British Navy was that way. You would just buy a position, so all the officers had no idea what they were doing. They just paid to be there. And we'll be in that position starting on January 20, I think. And for the next 4 years, we'll be a commercial government for sale to the highest bidder. So there's a new vaccine which you sniff into your nose, there's no needles, and it's effective against all COVID-19 variants. They've been talking about this for a while, how they'll make a synthetic vaccine that has like a picture with many a shape so it can hold many spikes. And the thing about it, it's a 200 nanometer particle, and it doesn't have the entire genome of the COVID vaccine. It has a little bit of it, enough to make the vaccine work. So it's a nasal spray, and it doesn't require cold storage. So it would be good for places where you do not have electricity and refrigeration, at least. No word here on how much is made or how much it costs to make it, but I imagine if you make a large quantity, it wouldn't cost much. But it seems like right now, nobody cares about COVID anymore. They're going to have to wait, I think, for the next pandemic to have a market sufficient to justify a major supply chain. And this I heard about on, I think, Rachel Maddow's show. The RFK is going to be in charge of the medical system in America. And so not only is he a vaccine denier and a complete lunatic, doing things like living entirely off beef and salt, and stupid things like that, he also has this personality test that he's going to give people. And this personality test is just voodoo stuff. It asks you, are you proud of your body? Do you want to have sex with people at work? And things like that, to decide whether it's worth hiring you. So this is, I've seen things like this before. I've seen lawsuits about these things before. Just a crazy standardized test. Here we are. Rank a series of attributes on your psychic makeup. Make people feel at ease. Do I spend time reflecting on things? Do I neglect my duties? And so on. I've seen a lot of people use these crazy tests. It's very much into the conspiracy theory thinking and sort of crack religious thing where you just make up some ridiculous theory of human personality and try to make everybody live up to your theory about how people think. I've seen lawsuits about this. There was one I saw where they tried to find out if you were a drug user by asking you questions like, should marijuana be legalized? And they were sued, saying, this is ridiculous. You have to decide you're a drug user based on the answer to a question like that and then not hire you. And they said, you can't do that. Now, you could give them a drug test and not hire them because they failed the drug test, but you can't give them some oblique, confusing personality test and decide from that they're a drug user and not hire them. So there may possibly be some grounds to challenge this in court. I would hope so, on the grounds that this test has nothing to do with actual skill or training or qualifications for the job, and you shouldn't be allowed to reject people based on this sort of nonsense. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, those are all the articles I had ready to talk about now.